It's Binjang 91.5, and you're listening to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson this afternoon. Good afternoon, Matthew.
Good afternoon, Tony. Great to be chatting again.
Yeah, I've got a few questions for you today. Funnily
Excellent.
enough.
I've got a few answers
Yeah,
for you. Let's hope the
I'm,
questions match the answers.
I'm sure you have. Now, is there a way of charging a mobile phone on the run using solar panels?
Well, it sounds a bit unwieldy, doesn't it, Tony? Carrying around a big solar panel, you're walking around trying to charge up your phone. But some researchers have developed a material that's actually flexible. So you can imagine it'd be a bit ridiculous trying to carry around a stiff solar panel, but these objects or these new solar panels can actually be put into fabric. They're flexible, they can be rolled up, they're completely compliant as a normal textile material would be. So these can be built into, for example, a hat, maybe T-shirts, shoulders of T-shirts, backs of T-shirts, anywhere where you might be walking around, and there's enough power generated from them to power some everyday electronics, mobile phones, watches, maybe a tablet, probably not quite enough to power a notebook and keep it going, but you can see the use of this, not just around where people might want to be away from a PowerPoint for a while, maybe go for a walk or a run, but in some third world nations where there's not a lot of PowerPoints around to be able to plug some of these electronic items into, having the ability to charge up these devices on the go, on the run, would be fantastic for some of those places, some of those countries. For people that are going outback, for example, I can see some applications there as well. But again, it's all about research that's being done to be able to work out better ways to generate power from solar, from the amount of power that's hitting our ground every single second of every single day while the sun's up. You've probably been familiar, Tony, with some of those little panels that people roll out sometimes. I've seen people sit down at a cafe, they roll out a little panel, it's a stationary square-like panel, and plug their phone into it, charge up their phone. Even for that type of thing, except this could be rolled up because the material is flexible rather than having to be stiff. Roll that out on a table, a bit like a tablecloth even, and that'd be enough to power some electronic devices sitting on your table. So lots of uses for it. Fantastic research. I think we'll start to see some of these products maybe within the next year.
Now, Matthew, I can just picture someone asking the question, who is underneath that solar panel carrying it around? And the answer would be, oh, that's Matthew Dixon. Who else?
Exactly.
Now, there are lots of positives from people working at home. And of course, that's been happening, as you know, with the world changing over COVID, and big questions being raised about this. Now, what's the negatives of doing this?
Well, one of the negatives certainly has been a huge spike in cybercrime. The estimation over the last financial year is that it cost this nation $7.6 billion, which is just an incredibly scary figure for cybercrime. If you look at just the height of the pandemic, if you like, between April and June this year, there was a 65% increase in cybersecurity incidents. And what most people don't realise is that this isn't a couple of hackers sitting down in a basement in a dark room just having a little play around with computers. These are businesses that are run, cybercrime businesses are run as a normal business would be, except it's totally illegal and obviously disadvantages a lot of people around the world. So the big issue has been that in the past, you've got your department, your organisation that you work for that has maybe the IT or team or people that work in an IT area. They've got firewalls, they've got secure servers, secure Wi-Fi. Suddenly, when COVID hit, everyone had to go home, start working from home. They're not sure if their Wi-Fi was secure, their home internet might not have been that secure. The kids might have been using the computer 1 minute, downloading some random things, playing some games. Next thing you know, you're on it, connecting to your network at work, trying to work in hopefully a secure environment. So all of those things have really increased the number of incidents of cybercrime, increased the number of dollars. But I think the other thing that's happened, Tony, is that although those things exposed more things, the cyber criminals saw an opportunity, so they ramped up their activity as well and trying to take advantage of some of those holes they might have been able to find. So all in all, working from home, great concept. It's been much better. We've had a lower road toll. We've had lower environmental impact of working from home. People's stress levels have gone down, but unfortunately, cybercrime has gone up.
Yeah, what a shame that is.
Yeah.
Now, this is a very topical question at the moment, and that is, have we received value for money with the Australian government COVID Safe app? Now, of course, you could say, well, under the circumstances that we had, was a good idea at the time, and you'd have to do it. But it hasn't worked out that well, has it?
It hasn't worked out that well, and I would think that define value for money, put it this way, we've spent about $357,000 of your money, my money, taxpayers' money for each case of COVID-19 that's been tracked through the COVID Safe app. So value for money, probably not. Government spent $5 million. You may remember in the early days, they were estimating around $2 million for the COVID Safe app. But I missed an opportunity, Tony. I'm very disappointed with myself. There were some consulting firms that were brought in to do some consultancy for the government. Some of those consulting firms were paid in the order of $500,000. They weren't actually generating the code for the app. They were just consulting for the app. I should have put my hand up for some of those consulting jobs, but that's blown it out to this $5 million cost that we now see. So 14 detections it's found, as I mentioned a moment ago. There hasn't been a single case of COVID-19 reported through the COVID Safe app in almost a month. The only thing they could point to, which has been a positive, is that they probably had more downloads than I thought they would anyway. They've got about 7 million Australians who have downloaded the app. You may remember in the early days they were aiming for 40%, and you and I talked on this program, Tony, and said they were dreaming getting to 40%. There was no way they were going to get to 40%. They have gotten to around about the 25% mark with the 7 million downloads there, which is a bit better than I thought they'd get. I actually thought they'd probably only get about 15 to maybe 20%. So they've got a few more, but the real test has been how much have we actually been able to track out of it. And with 14 cases reported, I'd say it's been pretty useless, actually. I think it hasn't really helped us that much in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah, Matthew, the only counterbalance to that argument is that we didn't have coronavirus getting out of hand in our country, and it could have been a very different scenario had it did, if that happened.
And you might be spot on. The fact that it was controlled a bit better, maybe we should be cheering the fact that only 14 cases have been reported through the app. If there had been thousands of cases reported, then maybe we would have had a much worse situation in our country.
Yeah, and not only that, but we also do know, of course, that there was a problem because of the way the iPhone is structured, the software in it, and the ability for the app to be able to be used on that platform. So that was another problem, of course.
Yeah, and look, part of the argument we put forward in the early days, Tony, was that Google and Apple were working together, which is very unusual for those two companies to work together, but they were working together to build a platform in the back end that could be used by any country around the world. It may well have been smarter, and this is in hindsight, we said it at the time, Tony, it may well have been smarter to jump on and take advantage of their back end technology and just basically put a front end to that. But the government decided to go on a different path, spent $5 million for very little outcome.
Yeah, my understanding was there was problems with that too, and it wasn't ready, and so, but here we are. We spent $357,000 per case, but of course we didn't have many cases in our country, so at least we can be grateful for that.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've been listening to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson on Binjang 91.5. Stay tuned next week, the same times, in the morning and in the afternoon. And for now, it's back to the great programs on Binjang.
Great, Tony. We'll chat again next week.
Thanks very much, Matthew.